Here we go, back into the show. Sometime. Oh, it closed Steam. God damn it. Alright, there we go. There's the good shit. She's so adorable. I don't want her to die. Setsumi. You're too adorable to die. Don't die. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Four Corners TV channel. What the fuck? Sorry for the weird interruption. I had a weird hair on my head. I don't have hair. Normally. It feels weird to have hair on my head. Anyways, what the fuck? Get off my head! This is a bad start to the video. Get off my head. Get the fuck off my head. Get off. Get off. Thank you. And it's still there. Fuck me. Let's, go into chapter, I believe, 2? So I'm gonna go ahead and press load. Did I not save? I did not save. Oh boy. That's just wonderful. I didn't know there were save points. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And, oh, there you are. What the fuck? Then it was saved? I don't know. I'm confused at this point. Alright, so, welcome to Narcissu, everybody. Welcome back to Narcissu, and we're going to go into Chapter 2, the Silver Coupe. So we're gonna learn all about this Silver Coupe. I have no idea why we're going over a car? But it has to have something to do with this sad story. So let's go ahead. Last time I had a really weird, quiet voice. This time I'm gonna try to have a better narration voice, hopefully. Well, thank you for letting me read that. All I got was January 16, 2005. A few days later, plunging further into the depths of winter. During this time that the rest of the world called exam period, we were sitting watching TV, the same as ever. This is boring. This exchange that could not have been called a conversation. We'd spent all our days in this fashion, killing time without meaning or purpose. Speaking of which, when is it for you? I see, so it's today. That word, that today, was the temporary discharge that she'd alluded to earlier. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because even if she were to be readmitted to 7F, that would be her last time. And in that time, I'd probably be discharged and readmitted myself. It didn't seem likely that things could be timed so that we could see each other again. About where I'm going to die? No, not yet. She nodded somewhat sadly, the expression of someone being discharged for the second time. I still felt nothing about the situation, and I hadn't heard from the doctors about my first discharge. Come to think of it, I wondered if she'd finally decided what her own answer to the dilemma would be. Click, click, click.
Setsumi, 支度できたわよ.
A lady came up to us with these words. This was probably her mother. She nodded slightly at me. I did not rise.
じゃあ、そろそろ行くけど、用意はいい？それでは失礼します。
She nodded slightly at me again, and then turned to leave this place. Wait, I'm a guy? I'm a guy. Oh, don't tell me I'm gonna get down and dirty with Setsumi and then she's gonna die. Nah, that makes it sadder. That makes it worse. That makes me feel bad. She did stretch out her hand toward that girl who was likely her daughter. But the girl did not move at all. She stayed rooted in her chair even after her mother had grabbed her hand.
どうかしたの、節美。少し苦しい。え、苦しいってどこが？胸？お腹？
Oh.
ちょっと待ってなさい。すぐに先生呼んでくるから。
Click, click, click. She took off in visitor use slippers in a sprint toward the nurse's station. There were but two things left in this place, her and me, both in chairs. I did not know a thing about her disease or its status. The only thing I knew were courtesy of her white ID bracelet. Her name was Setsumi, and her blood type was O. But we were inhabitants of 7F, and she was older than me, if just by a little. Hey, do you want to lie down over there until the doctors come? I pointed at the corner of the lounge at the couch, at something that I had never seen used. It'll support your back after all.
別に。おうへ。
Oops, I thought she was done. Saying those words and nothing more, she stood up quickly. Hey, wait. Don't do anything foolish. But she was already halfway down the corridor before I could finish the sentence. Nightfall, after lights out. Bored of reading manga, as usual. I wandered through the darkened hospital. The usual lounge, now pitch dark from the absence of light. That was where I found her. Hey, so you're still here? Aw, she didn't go home? What's up, not feeling well again? Was all she said as she stared out the window. So her discharge had been postponed after all. No one knew when the next chance would come, but it would probably be weeks from now, not days. Hey, could it be that you feigned illness today? No, that probably wasn't the right way to put it. See, you couldn't say that they weren't sick all the time. What I'm saying is, you didn't want to leave the hospital, did you?
意味がわからないわよ。
Because there is no afterwards for you now. Oh. But there was no answer to my question in her silence. She had asked me so many times before about where I wanted to die. And it had always been that I didn't know yet, and that she didn't want to die at home or here on 7F. So you have no other place to go after all. I feel like this is a teeny bit loud. Maybe one notch. Yeah, that'll be good.
だったらどうなのよ。
No, nothing. This familiar lounge floated in darkness. Her familiar stance, looking out the window without so much as acknowledging my existence. This place we called a hospital, and its extinguished lights in spite of the fact that it was only 11 p.m. or so. This was the tangent point between what was normal and what was not. On top of that, we were inhabitants of 7F, bereft of any choice save one: death on 7F or death at home. The outside world that she was staring at from the pitch-black height of 7F, the normal world. The buildings and homes were still radiant with light, and the street overflowed with people going home. And although my awareness of it was still vague, I was already an inhabitant of 7F, already an abnormal existence. There was no longer any way for me to go back to that other world, was there now? My time is at a standstill. Well, rain is loud. Wow. Oh, okay. Well, listen to me. I'd spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. At first, I would look down at the healthy kids going to school, and the people walking back and forth on the streets. And when I got tired of that, I always watched TV. Nothing else to do. Nothing else I could do. Even when there was snow outside the window, it was always bright and sunny inside the TV screen. A dream world, stretching out before my eyes without heat, without cold, without pain. I saw comfort from my imagination, and so I amassed a huge knowledge base. Meaningless trivia upon meaningless trivia, over and over. And before I knew it, nothing that appeared on TV seemed real anymore. And in quick succession, it also happened to books, games, and then my family. Finally, I was unable to view myself as anything real, as if I were staring at scenes of another person's life. That's why I was not surprised, even when they transferred me to 7F. If I but closed my eyes, the world would always vanish. So I thought I'd be fine, and I did as I thought. And soon enough, my second discharge from the hospital. By the time of my next admission, I'll probably be too weak to stand by myself. I found my own self, the one who couldn't do anything even though she knew this, to be pitiful. I found my own self, the one who had no destination, to be ridiculous. Excuse me.
時間を止め、心を止め、胸に大きな傷跡を作り、
Wow.
それでも22年も生きてきたのに哀れだと思った。
Wow. January 19th, 2005, 7F. A few days after that, the overhanging clouds had cleared up, and an endless winter sky was in their place. Oddly enough, my father had come to visit, a difficult expression on his face the entire time. But he was saying something or other about my insurance. And at that time his eyes were not unhappy at all. I have to talk to the doctors for a bit. Saying this, my father strode down the corridor, toward that dim conference room where this had all begun, or so it seemed. My hospital room was now empty. Having nothing to do now, I reached for the weekly magazines that they'd bought at the stands for me. And accompanying them, just as ever, there were fruits and drinks as get-well gifts. And to one side of the basket the fruits were piled, right in front of the melons that I so hated. What I saw was a set of car keys. Well, it's about damn time you gave him a car. Come on, man. It's about damn time you notice that he had a license. Jesus fucking Christ, he's gonna die now. Fuckheads. Yeah, I'd have the same thought. Nothing. The keys shone silver. These were the keys to my father's pride and joy. That coupe that he'd sweated over from the upholstery on outwards. The coupe that I'd asked to borrow a long time ago, and I'd been told no without a single second's delay. And my still unused driver's license in the breast pocket of my pajamas. Even after it had lost its chance for use that day, it remained with me waiting, as if that were its proof of life. Click. In silence, I grabbed the keys. It happened as if on impulse. I had no idea what my motives were either. I just seized them without a second thought, as if I were looking at a scene on TV. And in the few days' worth of meds that I'd been dispensed, I stuffed those into a bag and headed down the corridor. I snuck past the nurse's station and quickly strode toward the elevators. A bag in my right hand, the keys in my left. The long-neglected driver's license in my breast pocket. In front of the lounge. And the next thing I saw was the girl sitting there watching TV as per usual. Staring blankly and boredly at that screen, sitting on a little foldable chair. Hey, that show any good?
そう見える。
No, not at all. The all too expected exchange. Her eyes looked as far away as they always had. Well then, shall we go together? I continued talking as I showed her the keys in my hand. See, I don't want it to be at home.
私は7回も嫌。
Well then, aw, this is awesome. This is cute. Aw. Shall we go together? Aw. This is so good. With that, she stood up from her chair. Her hair swayed with her and grazed the tip of my nose. And then she, too, stuffed a few days' worth of meds in a bag. And we made to leave 7F together. I switched off that boring TV. The grating laughter of the MC was forever obliterated. Oh, this is awesome. Both of us in pajamas clad boarded the elevator, heading down from this top floor down to 1F. Oh, that's the seventh, those are the floors. I thought that was like a room. At the first floor, we headed not for the ER entrance, but for the outpatient clinic's entrance. Whoosh. The cold winter air struck away at our faces, all the more strong in a wide open space like the parking lot. The two of us wandered around the spacious field, looking about ourselves with unease. And after a little while, we came across my father's car. The Silver Coupe. That's a nice looking ass vehicle. Look at that thing. Shing? Oh, my father's pride and joy, impeccably maintained. I immediately inserted the key and opened the door. Click. Go ahead, get in.
分かった。
Thud. I sank into the driver's seat. She was in the passenger seat, but she was so short that she'd have a hard time seeing the road. I turned the key. Oh, they are in a totally different world with that steering wheel on the other side. At least in my position. I don't know about you guys. I turned the key into ignition and stepped lightly on the accelerator, just as I'd learned during the training. Sweet. Oh man. Reassuring engine noises filtered into the cabin. I released the handbrake and then applied the clutch. Now we could go anywhere. That was our plan. Alright, let's go. She nodded slightly. Instead of replying, I shifted into second gear, and the car accelerated smoothly. Unused to the clutch and swerving slightly, I advanced slowly.
揺れるわね。
Yeah, it's my first time in a car. Well, it's the first time since I got my license that I've driven a car. The exit to the parking lot was now in view, and the largest road beyond it without traffic lights. I turned onto it. The sound of honking car horns. Those were directed at me as I cut into the road. This... you are gonna hold up traffic. You are gonna get in the way. The Silver Coupe complained, but did not stop as I worked the unfamiliar clutch, the stiff gearbox. I must really have rubbed the other drivers the wrong way, as the honking of horns did not seem likely to cease. But I just continued to drive without caring much. None of it quite seemed real at all. Hey,
何？
are you scared?
怖がった方がいい。
No, not really. Still before noon, the high-flying sun. The skies of January, above and beyond the windshield. Skies so blue that they seemed almost in the morning. We had no destination. On that cold day with an alien clutch and a swerving car. On that day when we drove onto the highway in our pajamas. On that very day of winter. January 19th, 2005, Ibaraki Mito Highway. Around when that blazing high sun had changed into a dusky orange. Oh, that looks beautiful. We were continuing to drive, just driving in any direction at random, in a place that I did not recognize. We're stopping for a bit. I finally brought the car to a halt. A roadside somewhere, far away from civilization, no traffic anywhere to be seen. Lonely. Having stopped the car in this nameless place, I started inspecting around the cabin. If there was anything useful here, we just run off without any preparation at all, but there was something troubling leaping out at me. With that on my mind, I first scored the dashboard. There's nothing here at all. A couple hundred yen cluttered around the gear stick, a few manga volumes, and a cheap disposable camera. It wasn't as if we had a destination, but the onboard GPS navigation system looked broken. And I only had about 8,000 yen on me. Yikes, that's a little low. That was all the money I had lying around when I up and left. So combined with the pocket change I found, I only had 9,000 yen or so. Of course, I hadn't really expected that there'd be anything in the car anyway. But this lack of money presented a problem. It wouldn't be possible for us to find lodging on this budget. And it didn't seem likely that this girl would have any money on her either. No, it's nothing. Whatever. I'd half expected this from the beginning. It wasn't as if I'd thought this through enough to have things like a plan or a schedule. I just wanted to get out, right then and there. I did not want to stay where I was. Underneath the curtain of twilight, I started up the Silver Coupe again. Hey, are you hungry? I asked her as I drove along. Come to think of it, she hadn't eaten anything since morning. Want to stop at a convenience store or something? Hey, don't be like that. The food's much better than anything up on 7F. She did not respond to me. Instead, she looked straight down at the pink pajamas she was wearing. Oh yeah, that's right. I looked down at my own clothing. Sure enough, in these pajamas, we'd be conspicuous no matter where we went. Not that we weren't conspicuous right now. In any case, we'd have to do something about them. And having made my decision, I steered back towards civilization. After a little bit more driving, we arrived in a place whose name I didn't know. Probably somewhere close to a rail station. Certainly enough people around for it to be the case. There's got to be one around here somewhere. I looked around anxiously as I drove. My back pitched a little forward, not touching the seat. Ah, there one is. At last, a coin laundromat. It looked pretty run down from the outside on the first floor of a small forlorn building. This was a good place as any. I stopped the car not far from the entrance to this place. Alright, I'll be back in a second. Thud. Leaving her and her confused face in the car, I walked into the laundromat. My nose was filled with the smell of bleach and detergent the moment the automatic doors opened. The exterior of the laundromat had told no lie. The washers and dryers were old and run down as well. There's nobody here. The empty laundromat swallowed whole my murmured words. Only a single dryer was in operation, making its characteristic humming noises. I immediately walked to that machine and checked its timer. It looked like it would operate for 30 minutes on 200 yen, and only 5 minutes had elapsed so far. Whoever it was had probably gone elsewhere to kill some time. Ruminating over this, I looked around just one more time to reassure myself that no one was around. Then, satisfied that I was all alone, I put my hand on the door handle of that drying machine, and I abruptly opened it. Kerthunk. Its door opened during operation. The dryer spun down to a forced halt. I pulled out a clump of half-dry clothing, ignoring the heat and the humidity. And after looking around once more to make sure no one was around, I walked out of the laundromat just like that. You sly bastard. You are cool. You are, well, I wouldn't say that's the coolest thing ever, but you are one sly dog. Oh, She sounded slightly surprised when she saw my arms full of clothing. But I threw the clothes in the back seat without a word. Alright, let's go. I looked back at the bundle of clothes with the steering wheel in one hand. Gaudy looking sweaters and jeans and almost nothing else. All in pretty big sizes, at that. All still wet, but the car's heating would dry them out soon. Maybe not all the way, man. That probably wouldn't work well. It was 5 minutes in. That wasn't dry at all. Change into whatever you like later. She didn't react much to those words either. She just looked back at the pile of clothes. Look, we had no choice. Well, obviously. It wasn't as if I liked doing this kind of thing. You know, you're right, man. And it wasn't as if there was anything I was saving that money for. It was just that given the amount we had, it would be very difficult to buy new clothes. After I'd driven for a bit, around when the moon shone full above us, I stopped the car next to some public park. Probably a place for children to play, tucked away in the corner of a residential area. And there, I started looking through the clothes I'd stolen some time back. They were mostly dry now, thanks to the heating of the car. All men's clothing, after all. I'd inspected the heap once more, a veritable mountain of gaudy jeans and sweaters. Probably someone around my age, around the same size, looked like. You are lucky! And sitting in the driver's seat of the car, I changed to a pair of jeans and a sweater. Hey, you should get changed too. I mean, you're in the same car, you might want to give her some privacy, man. Aww. Then will you go on wearing pajamas forever? She answered reluctantly, grabbed some jeans and other clothes, and opened the door. Hey, where are you going? And just like that, she started walking to the park's bathroom. Click. Hey, that was fast. She'd come back in short order. The pink pajamas that she'd been wearing in her hands, a white shirt and a pair of jeans on her body. Well, that turned out fairly well. No answer. I'd expected this, but everything was too big and baggy on her. The jeans were too long and rolled far up at the cuffs, and the sleeves of the shirt were much the same way. Come now, don't say that. It's a little warmer this way at least. She made an only slightly dissatisfied face at my words. Oh, is that it? Were you hoping for more girlish clothes? The same response as ever. I was sure that she was unhappy with her baggy shirt, but she soon returned to her usual lack of expression. Ah, I liked the goofy music for a bit there. And it's raining again, damn it. Back to sadness. It had begun to rain all of a sudden. A freezing rain falling from the frigid January sky, as if it had forgotten how to stop. The countless raindrops spattering on the windshield and obscuring the view from the inside. And when each grew too large for surface tension to hold it up, a few of them gathered, slid down, and became rivers. And these rivers swallowed up raindrops underneath them and ran to the bottom. I stared emptily at the rain from inside. A parking lot somewhere, a desolate place in the middle of the mountains. Having finished shopping at a convenience store, we were spending the night here. The dinner menu, 2 rice balls, 500ml Pocari Sweat, half a bag of potato chips. It's been a long time since we last did anything like this. She murmured with the convenience store rice ball in one hand. It wasn't anything of wonderful quality, but it was far better than anything served up in 7-Up. And when we were both going after the potato chips, she suddenly stopped reaching for it. Is something the matter? But her eyes were turned past the windshield, glazed by the rain, at a few white flowers on the roadside. At some flowers soaked by the rain. I didn't know if someone had planted them, or if they were wild, but I remembered something about them. Were those Narcissu? Aw. Alright, Narcissus. While I didn't know flower names all that well, I had at least heard of Narcissus before. And this girl who seldom spoke a single word was actually talking about something. And so I followed along. And speaking of which, are these not exactly the real deal as well?
厳密には違う。
So they must be pretty rare then.
別にどこにでもあるわよ。
Anywhere? And where exactly? It wasn't as if I had any deep purpose in asking. It was just that I was making conversation as best as I could, and yet this girl thought about it for a bit, and slowly opened her mouth.
西
West?
淡路島が有名。
Awaji Island. Hey, wait. How far away do you think that is? I just started driving a car, so I wasn't even halfway proficient yet. It was probably about 700 kilometers away, and even on the tollways, I couldn't say how long it would take. And in the first place, I didn't think we had enough money for that. If we went by normal highways instead of the tollways, there was no way we'd have enough for gas. And don't say stuff like that. You can't mean to go there, right?
誰が行きたいなんて言ったの？
Well,
問われたから答えただけ。
and just like that, she went back to staring at the flowers across the windshield. The thick haze of the cold rain streaming on glass. She kept gazing and gazing and gazing. I didn't particularly want to go there either, but I had nowhere else that I wanted to go. Chapter 3, here we go. Doing 2 chapters an episode, why not?
時間の止まった私。
Oh, there she goes again. I piled useless trivia upon useless trivia, drew information from the TV and the TV alone, and soon nothing was real anymore, fading away into hollow space.
でも地図を見るのは好きだった。
Trains, cars. I loved things that could take me places. I spread out maps on top of my narrow bed. Changed routes over and over and over. Sedans, coupes, convertibles, rode on so many different kinds of cars. The number one route, continuing on forever. I ran on that road forever and ever and ever. Indigo blue skies, beautiful coastlines. I ran until I came at least to these places sketched in my dreams. Slowly tracing past the arc of a cape, running on the white sand of a beach, the sun to my back. If I but closed my eyes, I'm sorry for that. If I but closed my eyes, I could go anywhere. Toward landscapes I had never seen before with my own eyes, longing for the soil upon which I could never hope to tread.
ただ知識だけを増やした。虚しく憧れだけを募らせた。
January 21st, 2005. The sky after the rain. The high flying clouds streaming by at knife-edge speeds. The unique swishing sound of tire on wet asphalt. And through it all, there we were, driving along as always. No destination, just the desire to keep going no matter what. It wasn't as if I was looking to go to Awaji Island at all. We didn't even have the gas money to get there anyway. But I drove straight ahead on unfamiliar roads, even as I thought these thoughts. But where are we? I was forced to wonder. I didn't know my geography very well to begin with, and I was seeing all sorts of place names I didn't recognize. I had planned on driving until the ends of the earth, but with the GPS navigation system broken, I had no idea anymore. And before I knew it, I started looking around anxiously at the street signs as I drove. I don't know at all.
何？
Well, I don't know where we are right now. She'd said something to me, and I'd given her a casual response. Because she probably wasn't going to know, even if I asked her.
見るなよ埼玉県
What?
次の交差点を右に行けば16号線
He knew all this? Did you happen to live around here or something?
別にそんなんじゃないわよ
It was a surprise. No, it wasn't just surprising. It was nothing short of a miracle that she knew the roads to this detail. Because no matter how I looked at it, she didn't seem to have driven around at all that much herself. Then it could be... Do you know the way from here to Awaji Island?
質問の意味がわからない
Well, see, we might be able to get there on normal highways without having to get on the tollways. And we might just have enough gas money to get us there.
あなた行きたいの
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
じゃあ聞かないで
With those words, she fell silent, and she turned to face the window with as frosty a demeanor as ever. But she wasn't looking at the passing scenery. It felt like she was staring at something in the unreachable distance. Her, then don't ask me. Just what the hell was that supposed to mean? How would she have replied if I had told her that I was planning on going? Oh, come on. Come on. Is it not doing anything anymore? Oh, come on. There we go. We simply continued on. No purpose, no aim. It wasn't as if we had a plan or schedule for the get-go. We just didn't want to die in 7F or at our oh-so-fake homes. But I, and maybe I alone, must have wanted something to show us the way, no matter what that way might be. January 22nd, 2005. Swish, swish. It's cold.
そうね
Some beach whose name I did not know. We'd reach the sea before we'd know it. I'd been planning on heading west, but somehow it looked like I ended up going south. Whoosh. A pitch-black sky and a cold, windy waterfront. We both got out of the car and stared at the darkened sea. She stood apart from me as usual and stared into the distance, where the black sky and ocean melted in the horizon's edge. Excuse me. And after seemingly taking in the view of the ocean for a while, she slowly started walking toward the beach.
どうなると思う
Now I've got no idea what you were talking about.
楽に死ねると思うこのまま海に入っていくと
Those were her words as she slowly walked into the sands, her back turned to me. The third time was the end. There was no fourth time. The choice was between dying on 7F and dying at home. Apparently no one had escaped this choice. Those were the words that she herself had spoken to me. And yet on her second time around, she told me that she didn't want to die on 7F or at home. This was after she'd explained the rules to me, after her duty to me was already over. That's why I felt that this is what she meant. I don't know, I've never drowned before.
じゃあもしも今私が海に入っていったなら
What the hell?
止める
She turned her head to look at me as she said this, with the moon rising in the dark heavens as her backdrop, and her gaze, which had always been so far away, was directed straight at me. I don't know. I'd have to see when the time came.
そうよね
She then turned her back to me and slowly started walking toward the sea once more. Hey, tell me,
何
do you want to be stopped? Upon hearing my words, she stopped short of the waves. A strong wind kicked up a spray that beat against her feet. If you want to be stopped, then I'll stop you.
別にそんなんじゃないわよ
And it'll be fine if I don't stop you, right? She wants to be stopped. There was no reply to my question, but her feet did not move any further either. So that was her answer then and there. Wow. The high, high heavens of winter. Blue and clear, almost to the point of morning. Strong north winds beating against the electric wires overhead. The Silver Coupe reflecting that blue sky on its shining frame. With me in its wheel. With me at its wheel, and with her in the passenger seat as per usual. I didn't know where I was, but the real problem was that we were going to run out of gas soon. We didn't have that much money to begin with, and after various convenience store purchases, we had even less. Only about 7,000 yen left. Of course, I had no idea how many liters this car took, but we probably had enough money to fill the tank once. We still didn't really have a destination or anything, but if we didn't fill up, we could not go anywhere anymore. I'm gonna fill up on gas. And with that, I turned the steering wheel and drove into a gas station that was coming into view. Welcome. Will you be paying by credit or cash? Cash, please. Regular or premium? Regular? Premium? I had no idea. Well, then again, I had no idea about anything in this car. And on top of that, it had been a long time since those driver's license classes. Well, which one would you like? Well, there I was at a loss for words, and then stood the gas station attendant waiting for me. Choose regular, buddy. Premium is not worth your fucking time. And then, just as I was about to answer at random because I didn't care which one of the two it was, she spoke from the passenger seat. Huh? Oh, okay. Regular then. Okay then. Regular, full tank, paying with cash? Yeah, that'll be all. Okay then, thank you very much. The attendant skillfully began his operation with those cheerful words. The strangely disagreeable smell of gasoline wafted in from the window that I'd opened roughly 10 centimeters. Hey, are you sure that this thing takes regular? She said nothing at all to this and just pointed at the prices list. Ah, so that was it. It was cheaper this way. I didn't understand it very well, but I didn't think there was that much difference in price. And then I saw the gasoline meter and the number of liters being displayed. 25, 26, 27, 28. The numbers were going by at an incredible speed. Maybe I'd made a mistake. I began to get a little worried as I watched those numbers climb. I told him to fill the tank a while back, but I didn't have that much money on hand. Even with the coins, I only had about 7,000 yen, and of course I had no idea how many liters this tank took. What was I going to do if I didn't have enough money? I did some quick calculations, and I realized that after 60 liters I wouldn't have enough. 38, 39, 40, 41. The numbers kept climbing without slackening pace at all, and I became more and more worried over something I usually didn't give a second thought to. Damn, how many liters does this thing take? I'd let the words out before I knew it. Huh? And just as she said, the gasoline meter stopped between 47 and 48. The sound of a receipt being printed out, and then the attendant at my window again. Thank you for waiting. The total comes down to 5240 yen. Sorry for that. Oh, okay, here. I took out a 5,000 yen note and a crumpled 1,000 yen note from my pocket and handed them to the attendant. Alright, then your change will come. Alright, then your change comes to 760 yen. Here's your receipt. Thank you for your business. I turned straight onto the road upon hearing the attendant's cheerful voice. The Silver Coupe now in motion once more. On the bright side, I was no longer worried about running out of gas. On the not so bright side, we only had about 2,000 yen left. This worried me, but there was something that preoccupied me much more. Hey, question. Could it be that you're an expert on cars, too? What do you mean, not really? You knew that this car took 50 liters of gas, didn't you? Of course, it may well have been that this kind of thing was absolutely common knowledge that I just didn't have. But she'd proven that she was an expert on these roads not so long ago. Having been caught by surprise twice now, I took out the vehicle specification from the glove compartment. And of course you know the make and model of this car as well, don't you?
それは質問。
You can think of this as a quiz if you want.
インテグラタイプ R クーペ
That's sweet. Correct. And the specs?
99年式高速ミッション最高出力100馬力
I had no expectation that she'd actually answer. I almost involuntarily followed along on the vehicle spec sheet as she rattled off figures with total disinterest.
全長4380全幅1995総配まだいる
That's awesome. No, it's alright, you're correct. I put the vehicle spec sheet back in its place. I couldn't believe my ears, but she nailed every single specification. I didn't think one could just memorize these things, and I couldn't even venture a guess as to why she had. But right before my eyes, she had gotten every single spec correct. And thinking back to the roads and flowers, I was getting the impression that she knew a lot about a lot. Hey, just why do you know so much about everything?
別にあなたより年上だからよ
And with that bare response, she went back to her usual silence. With her staring out the window again, I didn't find myself able to throw any more questions at her. Older. It really didn't look that way at all, but this was something she'd said before too. Her name was Setsumi. Her blood type was Zo. Those were written on her white ID bracelet. There was very little indication to show me that she was older than me at all. Around when the sun started peeking out from under the clouds. The Silver Coupe speeding along. No destination, no place to go, just running forward. No more worries about gasoline, but no more money either. Only about 2,000 yen left. Only enough for 3 to 4 more days at most of convenience store food. Alright, so now what do you want to do?
質問の意味がわからない
I mean that we have no more money left.
だから
Look, you. Her appearance is unchanging as ever, and this conversation we were having while eating rice balls bought at a convenience store not long ago. Finally, the fact that even if we were driving along like this, we were using up gasoline little by little. Maybe it might have been better to just stay still without doing anything at all. But it was impossible for me to stay still without doing anything, without shooting for anything. And I kept driving with those feelings at heart. Good boy. Good on you. Die doing something, kid. If we just keep driving on normal highways, we'd run out of gas in about 3 days. Likewise, we only had enough for 3 to 4 days worth of food with the 2,000 yen we had left. We were obviously going to become too poor to do anything soon enough. Hey, do you want to try going to this Awaji island? No reply. She just kept staring out the window as per usual. I think I might want to. Well, it wasn't as if we had escaped from 7F with any goal or destination in mind. Because east or west, no matter where, anything was fine with me. But maybe that's why I wanted a goal and a destination, because anything was fine with me. Around when the daylight had given over to the darkness of night, I had stopped the car in the parking lot of a pachinko parlor. Obviously, I wasn't planning on winning any money through pachinko or slots. He knew that there wasn't much I could do on just 2,000 yen alone. But if I were skillful enough, I just might be able to swipe 10,000 or 20,000 yen. That was my guess, based on the many times I'd been to pachinko parlors in the past. If I only had that much, we'd be okay in the first place, and we might even be able to get to Awaji Island on that amount. And so I told her about the plan that I had just thought up. How about it? Want to try it out? Immediate no. Okay, very well. I'd expected it, but she'd shot me down immediately. I hadn't hoped that she'd cooperate with me in the first place, and I told her about my plan as a fait accompli. Not because I wanted her aid in it. Alright, then wait here. I got out of the car and strode into the pachinko parlor alone. It was more crowded than I thought. Lots of pachinko balls, lots of people, and more importantly, cash boxes crowded everywhere. As good a place as any. And thinking this, I headed over to the slots machines. I inspected them from the corridor for a while, and after having finished my survey, I focused on one set of machines. Lots of middle-aged salarymen, alright. Up to 4 boxes at their feet and up to 2 on racks above them. And an empty stand separating each of them. From what I'd seen before, these men hadn't come with acquaintances or friends. This satisfied the requirements. Perhaps in a place like this, no one would notice if I swiped one of those cash boxes. And in a store like this, each one probably held 20,000 yen or so. And with just that much, I just kept waiting there for one of the salarymen to go to the bathroom. After a little while, after roughly 30 minutes had passed, the salaryman finally stood up from his seat. After I'd tailed him a bit to make sure he was going to the bathroom, I dashed back to the stand that he occupied. You are one risky bastard. And watching the people who were hitting the slots at the attendants, I slowly approached that stand. Then, so as to not raise any suspicion as if it were the most natural thing in the world, I swiped one of the cash boxes underfoot. That moment, coins scattered everywhere with a thunderous noise. Oh no, he's in trouble. Oh no. Oh god. This is bad. I'd been meaning to pick it up. No, I really had picked it up with my very own hands, but they were unable to bear that weight, and the cash box crashed onto the floor. Everyone turned in my direction to see what the commotion was all about. I got the feeling that someone was shouting. I got the feeling that someone was running toward me, but that was all behind me. I had already bolted and was less than 2 meters away from the entrance of the establishment by then. What? Oh my god! Are you seriously gonna boot it with that? I put the engine in ignition in a hurry and floored the pedal. You sly dog. And when I spun the wheel to make my hesitate getaway, just then... Wham, crunch, crunch. What? I'd run against the curb or something as I turned to make my getaway. That's the horrible crunching sound. Oh, I thought someone hit the car. But I accelerated onto the road before me without giving it a second thought. Pant, sigh. My suddenly constricting, out-of-breath chest in the Silver Coupe speeding out of the daylight and into darkness. I was concerned about the crash a little while ago, but I had to distance myself from that place now. And soon, after 10 minutes of this, a fair distance away from that pachinko parlor, I stopped at some roadside and started to get out to inspect the damage. Yeah, it doesn't look too serious. She sounded slightly worried as she called out to me. I answered her as I inspected the damage. There was just a bump in the rear fender and a small crack in the muffler. It didn't look as if there would be any problem driving like this. I let out a sigh, somewhat relieved. That sucked. I thought back at what had just happened at the pachinko parlor. I'd slipped up there, but had I been a little more skillful, I might have pulled it off. And the reason I wasn't able to hold on to that cash bag was because it had been a while since I'd lifted something heavy. If I'd held on to it with all my strength at the outset, I might have been able to make it. Huh? She spoke as if she'd seen straight through me. But that kind of weight. Perhaps she was right. I didn't want to admit how changed I was. Fair enough. I had anticipated at all that I could grow this week. Then what should I do? No answer. Eyes turned in silence toward the window to stare into the dark night sky. This was probably the way she was telling me to give up. Oh. Alright. Okay. that was... Oh, man. Well, that's Narcissu Part 2. Thank you for watching, everyone, on the Four Corners channel. This is Brody Jonas, and I would like to thank you guys for sticking around on the channel for quite some time now. It's been over a year. Hoo-yah. Thank you very much for watching this Narcissu Part 2. Stick around for more, and there will be more next week, starting around Monday. Thank you very much. Goodbye.